Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central, and here's your host, Bob Hickey.
Hello there. Welcome to another great episode of Foxborough Central. Thank you for taking a little bit of time to sit back, enjoy me and my guest, Martha Slattery. Martha, thank you so much for coming out with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Well, my pleasure. And Martha, you are running for another term as a member of our school committee. Congratulations on not only your past accomplishments, let's see, you've been on the board for 15 years.
Long time.
Long time, 15 years. And so divided by 3, that would be at least
5 terms.
Using public education math skills.
More than math.
But Martha, you know, one of the compelling stories about your longevity is that you have that continuity from administration to administration. You've been through several school superintendents. You've been through some rough years. You've been through some, at least what I view now as being some really positive years, because you know, I'm a father of 2 kids who are currently in the school system, and they're both up at the high school. And I got to tell you, things seem to be going really well right now. So I'm going to use that as a springboard statement to say, Martha, who are you and why are you here?
Well, I've lived here my entire life. I just turned 65, so I've been here 65 years. And I feel as though I really have a vested interest in this town and what happens with the children in the system. You know, they are our future, and if we don't invest in them, then we have nothing to look forward to. You know, I was one of 6 children who graduated from Foxborough High School. My 5 children graduated. I have 9 grandchildren who are almost in the system. 8 will be starting in the fall in kindergarten. So, you know, you like to see the changes, and I think because I have a bird's eye view of what's going on through the children, it gives me a little bit of an edge as to what's going on. I think it's hard when you're young and you have children in the system, because people will always accuse you of only being there because you only care about what's going to happen to your child. And I think I've proven that I care about everybody's children. And I think we have to really stay on top of what's going on. I've seen a lot of changes, some good, some bad. I think when you take a look at what has transpired with shootings and with the bombing the other day, it's devastating. And I kind of equate it to what I do in my practice. You know, I was always taught to treat the whole patient. And I think we need to stand by the student and come at them from all angles. I've always been a strong advocate of making sure that we have enough in the guidance department. I mean, everybody who touches your child's life from the time they enter school to the time they graduate has the potential to have some impact on that child, and you never know who they're going to befriend or who they're going to look up to. But I think guidance, first and foremost, we have to keep an eye on these children. You
know, it's interesting you say it, because with schools, people don't really, you know, everything is a snapshot. As you say, you don't have children directly in the school system now, so it does give you more of a broader view, which I think is a very compelling piece of what you bring to the table. But 13 years, if you're going from K through 12,
it's a long time.
That's a long time. It's significant building of character, of education, of the child. And you know, that is an excellent point about the guidance department and touching a child's life.
But it's not even that. I mean, from the bus driver who greets your child, from the cafeteria worker that helps feed your children. I mean, there's so many people, the secretaries, the people, the nurses, everybody that comes in contact with your child can see a change, can understand what's happening, can bring it to somebody's attention. You know, as parents, I can know, you know, what you think and what you wonder about your child and your hopes and your aspirations. I'm there when babies are born, and I hear people say, oh my God, they're going to Harvard, and what's the APGAR score? We're so in tune to numbers that sometimes we take away from the potential of a child. And it's not just about a number or a statistic. We have to teach children everything. When you compare what you learned in high school and what I learned in high school, my God, my daughter, my oldest, who's a nurse, when she was in high school, she had a genetics class. I never had that.
It's a different world now,
It's a different world. I mean, the computers, I've got a 4-year-old grandson that can work an iPad, and I don't even know how to turn it on. I don't have one. And it's amazing what these children need to know.
When you and I went to high school, there weren't PCs like this.
No.
And so it's a continually evolving society, and it's great to see that you seem to have an understanding of how the school, particularly high school, but the school system plays into preparing our kids for the real world. So with that, there's always the, I won't say controversy, but there's always the clarion call from the state to teach to the MCAS. How do you view, and Foxborough does score well with their student body on the MCAS scores, but how do you reconcile that with some of these, you talked about genetics, what a great class, but I'm pretty certain that's not on the MCAS test.
No. You know, it's amazing when you look back how the changes had come about, and I had some personal issues with way back when my kids were in high school and they went and took their SATs. And I can remember my niece over in Norfolk, when she came back, said, oh my God, that was easy, because they had already had some of those things. Whereas my kids came home from taking the SATs and said, Mom, we never had some of this stuff. So I think you could see that they needed to make some changes within the state. You know, I'm a firm believer in the neighborhood school system, but I want to make sure that everybody learns the same thing, everybody has the same, you know, capabilities, so that when they come together in the middle school, they all are on even footing.
And I think
it should be inconsistent. And I think that's what they found within the state, that when kids got to college, they all didn't have the same capabilities. And all of a sudden, you're starting to have to give remedial classes, for God's sakes, in college. So it needed to be changed. But as far as MCAS go, that was never meant to be what it became. To me, if you're going to change the curriculum within the state, you have to have some way of knowing, are you teaching this curriculum? And I think that's what MCAS was originally designed for, so that we knew that every school was on the same page. And then all of a sudden it became, you know,
well, it became a funding measure.
Yeah, well, it became a funding measure, but it also became a do-or-die test.
Right.
And I think what's important is not every child learns the same way. Not every child has the same capabilities. To think that, you know, some of our special needs children could ever become proficient, I think sometimes these legislators need to come out and sit in a classroom and understand what the teachers are up against. And until they do that, spend a week in New Bedford, spend a week in Springfield, and understand what goes on in a classroom. We have heterogeneous grouping, which means you're teaching to every child, which means that teacher is constantly changing hats and going from one child to another and trying to meet everybody's needs. I couldn't be a teacher. I just couldn't. You know, you know where your love and where your passion is. And I give them a lot of credit, because I don't think we realize how full their days are.
Wow, that's a great, healthy respect there. So with the curriculum being what it is, how do you think Foxborough schools stack up against some of our competing, and I'll use the word competing because other towns are doing the same thing we're doing, but we're also vying for recognition for state funding, for you know, whatever, even if it's just in the Sunday section of the Boston Globe, to have our name on a chart
everybody
above
wants
the
to
other
look,
ones.
where are you?
Exactly.
But you also have to look at the funding measures. You also have to look at class size and how many kids are taking this test. You know, some of the charter schools get a lot of credit for their scores. Well, if you only have 25 kids that you're testing compared to over 200, how do you compare that? That's like comparing apples to oranges. You know what? If you only have 25 kids, I expect them to be proficient. So I think... Well,
also, let me just interrupt you there. Back to my time, folks at home may remember I used to be a selectman, and back in my time, it was always a great frustration that we couldn't really have an honest discussion with the funding sources and with the schools about charter schools and how they impact not the fact that they're educating those 25 kids in a class, but that they're getting a per pupil reimbursement that doesn't factor in a lot of the physical plant that we have, a lot of the special education services that we had, and a lot of the legacy issues and support services, and
they can't possibly handle what we handle.
And it's an unfair funding mechanism.
Right.
So when you're, and I'm glad you brought up about charter schools, and believe me, this is not a bash. It's
isn't.
More of just a realistic discussion about these are some factors that are out there that maybe people don't always want to talk about, and I'm glad to hear you understand and are willing to talk about it. I'm not
for or against charter schools, but people need to understand that if we weren't funding students to go to the charter school, then we wouldn't have any financial problems within the school district. Over $1 million, you know, is redistributed, and everybody has the choice of where they want to send their child, be it a charter school, private school, public education. I am a firm believer in public education. But, you know, back when we took SATs, not everybody took them. Now we encourage everybody to take them. People need to understand the more people who take a test, the lower your scores might be. Not everybody is going to be in the same bracket. And we take exception with that. We have kids going off to great colleges, but again, you know, we push and we want our kids to go to the best schools, but I tell everybody that decision's made at the kitchen table. I'm not going to sit back and tell my child to apply to Harvard when I know I can't afford to send my child there. So even though my child might have that caliber, or your child might have that caliber, that decision is personal. So I think instead of us patting ourselves on the back saying, well, you know, we got 10 kids who are going to Harvard this year, to me, that's not what it's about. You know, do you get into college? Do you finish? And what do you do your life afterwards? And nobody ever comes up with those statistics. Nobody.
Interesting. So, without getting into anecdotal evidence of stories of people who have succeeded or not succeeded, for 15 years you have sat at the table on the school committee. What are some of your, give me a highlight of, I won't say the ESPN top 10, but give me some things that you've really tickled that happened over the last 15 years, some proud accomplishments, if you will.
I think
Bang the drum a little bit.
Bang the drum a little. I think the first year I became chair and was handled a huge surplus, and we redistributed some of it because we have line item allocation. There were some things that I know if I knew we had that money at the beginning of the year, I would have, you know, pushed for. I remember a couple of advisory committee members were there that night, and they said, well, you know, we expect you to spend all that money. We voted for it. I said, whoa, wait a minute. You know, you have to understand that if I spend every penny here, and if every freezer goes in the district tonight, I don't have any money to replace them with. So I'm going to have to come back to you. So my thought, and the committees went along with it, was we'll do some of the things we need to do that we couldn't do. But we're going to give back almost $500,000, because if you put it into the general fund, it gets redistributed to the working budgets on both sides. It doesn't take away from CIP, and it's the thing to do. Right. And I remember Randy and Andy were sitting in the audience that night, and they came up afterwards and they said, are you really serious about giving us that money back? I said, I'm dead serious, and we did. It
was a definite change in the political wind, and one that I think, and if I remember the year correctly, that was a particularly rough year.
Yes. Well, it was rough for the next year.
That's what I'm saying. And it was a particularly rough year coming in, and you alluded to the CIP, that's a capital improvement.
Funding. You know, so.
I mean, on TV, every once in a while, even I will have a glitch.
You know, but only
that
that.
Funded the prior year from surplus funds, and then that goes, so that's a 2-year cycle. So by giving back that money, that truly was helpful to the general fund. Absolutely.
Well, not only that, but we also realized how much was in the revolving accounts. Now, what people don't understand is some of those revolving accounts are earmarked for specific things. So if you have a lot of money in those accounts, it's not like you can just take it and put it where you want to. You have to work within the confines of the revolving accounts. So the next year, when we knew money was going to be tight, but we didn't want to skimp on education, we took money from those revolving accounts to help offset, and didn't compromise the educational quality within the system.
And there was some controversy, but I think at the end that was
it was the right thing to do.
Because it made it through a bubble. And Randy Scollins is wonderful to educate the town and continually say you don't want to take one-time money and create a recurring expense off of that. And I think you and your committee knew that the bubble was going to be there, the dip, and to carry you through, similar to a rainy day fund. And so that was very, well, it was very teamwork oriented, as far as the town team.
Well, I think we needed to show, there was some controversy about, you know, 70-30 splits and this and that, and I always maintained.
I remember some of those meetings.
And they were hot and heavy, but, you know, once I became chair, I said, please, I live in this town. I still have to face people. I have a tax bill just like everybody else. And I made the statement over and over, and this isn't my money, this isn't your money, this is our money. If we don't start working together as a community and trying to figure out and balance between the two, we've got nothing. All we're going to do is fight about money? That's not right either. So I think there was a whole new attitude and a better way to do things. And, you know, we understood, you know, we did something with the reverse 911. We allocated on our side, and we wanted the town to have it, but they didn't have the money, so we paid for it that first year.
And what a great program, by the way, particularly with the storms that have come up, and most recently there was a bus accident on Mechanic Street, and Superintendent Debbie Spinelli, who I think is a wonderful superintendent. This is the, you know, how quick is it for her to understand that a lot of parents would be concerned, and to enact that reverse 911 just to reassure everybody,
bring everybody
that
up
folks
to speed.
Are safe, and that I think is a key as far as understanding people and how a community understands, reacts, and wants to be partnered with the schools. So good stuff. So over 15 years, some good things have happened. There have been some challenging times. You want to do it again. What do you want to accomplish over the next 3 years?
I want us to keep taking it to the next level. You know, if we have to do searches, we proved, I chaired 2 superintendent searches, and ironically enough, you know, we talked about getting an outside consulting firm, and I said, we can do this ourselves. We saved the town probably over $20,000 each time we went on a search because, you know, we were able to put together incredible search committees who sat and worked together and looked over applicants, and it was amazing. You know, when you have a strong board and you have a board that stands out, and I think we did, you have a lot of people who want to buy into that. So the applicants we got far exceeded our expectations. And I've said it over and over, Foxborough is the place to be. People want to be here. You know, the applications we get for teaching positions, for administrative positions, they're phenomenal. You don't see that in the other towns. So we must be doing something right.
Must be, and you've, of course, some great principal hires, and also your business department.
Yeah.
Paul Jackson before, and now Bill Heckner.
Yeah.
What phenomenal folks to lead the business side of the school department, to set you up
people are
to work
working
in
together.
Partnership.
And that's what's important, is because you have to have that relationship with one another. You have to be able to believe in one another, and I know we have a solid group of people. You know, the front office is, no matter when you call, no matter when you drop in, they're there, they're friendly. You know, your first line of defense is the people who meet and greet you. And I see it in my practice, I see it in this town, you know, and it goes a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
Can you believe that this entire program has already gone by?
No.
Folks, I am here speaking with Martha Slattery, who is currently a member of the school committee, wants to run again, and is looking for your vote. If you want to talk to Martha, ask her more questions, this time period has flown by. It's amazing. You can call her at 508-941-9768. Get a hold of Martha. Ask her how she's doing and what her vision is. Martha, real quick, you get the last word.
And you know, I appreciate your vote. I think I've given some of the best years of my life to the school committee, and I have a lot more to give. And I like being a part of this. I always say, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. And I think I've proved that. And I just would like to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's working for each and every child in the system every day.
Well said, Martha. Thank you so much for
You're
taking
welcome.
the time to come out with us. I hope that you at home have enjoyed this period with Martha Slattery, who's running for Foxborough School Committee. Again, if you want to reach out to Martha on your own, give her a call at 508-941-9768. I'm Bob Hickey, your host. Thank you for taking a little bit of time to sit with me in Foxborough Central. Remember, the views of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of the host, the volunteers, or staff of Foxborough Cable Access. And we all hope to see you come out and vote on Tuesday, April 30th at the Ahern Middle School. And be sure to join me, Bob Hickey, your host, as we do live election coverage with Lauren Bitar and all the candidates. So until Tuesday, April 30th, we'll see you at Foxborough.